Hey everyone, Ariel Adams here with aBlogtoWatch. Today I'm going to review the Seiko Astron GPS Solar, or rather the latest generation of the Astron GPS Solar. And there's a lot to say about this, so I'll try to consolidate it to what's most important. This particular model is the Seiko SSJ013. This is a new for 2023 release, which takes the Seiko Astron GPS Solar in a new direction in terms of the case shape and the bracelet. And there's a few other models. This is a titanium watch with Seiko's what they call super hard coating, which makes it more scratch resistant. Very, very important to have that on a titanium watch, and the Japanese brands like Seiko do that particularly well. Otherwise, you'll have a lot of scratches on your watch, and you don't want that. The Seiko Astron name goes back to 1969 when Seiko was the first company to commercially release a quartz-powered watch. It was very expensive at the time, and Seiko retired the Astron name for many years in about 2012 or something like that, as Seiko wanted to get into the GPS watch market. It came out with a new Astron collection that was the Astron GPS Solar, and the movements, as they say, have an antenna to receive signals from global positioning satellites in order to update the time, and they're also solar powered, so light enters through the dial. Underneath it is a photovoltaic cell, and that charges the battery. It has about 6 months of battery when fully charged up. And it can also go into sort of a sleep mode. So if it isn't exposed to light and you're not moving around the watch, the seconds hand stops. It continues to tell the time. Doesn't update itself, of course, with GPS, and it'll give you about 2 years in that resting state. So a lot of functionality there, and a lot of clever design. And I'll give you some more examples of clever design. The dial, for example, that receives light has a light sensor, and if it sees that you're receiving sunlight, it's going to guess that you're outside. And that's important because GPS watches require line of sight with the sky in order to speak to relevant satellites to update the time. And this watch tries to do that automatically. So when you are outside, I think once a day, it will say, hey, this is a good opportunity to triangulate with some of the satellites and to go ahead and update the time. And there's some indicators here on the hand. So you can see here it says 4+. And that has to do with when it is syncing, how many of the satellites it's able to speak to in order to identify, sort of compares the information so it gets the most accurate time. It also speaks to them, I think, for just efficiency purposes. But you get a lot of information to know what happened. You can also push this pusher here to say, on the last time you attempted to receive a signal from a GPS, was it successful? Meaning, did the time and date update as well as the location, or was it unsuccessful? And I think that's also important to mention, is this generation of GPS watch is able to do all those things. It's able to update the time, calendar, but also automatically know where you are. So if all works out well and you wear the Seiko Astron GPS, the time is just going to be accurate. It just updates itself. It knows where you are, and it's just going to change the time. You can, of course, easily adjust the time zone. You pull the crown out here. Rather than adjust the time, you're basically changing the hour and 1 minute increments to move different time zones and things like that to help it out. So it's an interesting watch that's been highly refined. There's other more functional GPS movements. What I mean by that, they have a second time zone, chronograph, things like that. This is Seiko's more simplified caliber. It's the 3x62, which really just focuses on the time and the calendar system. It has a perpetual calendar system. You don't have the indicators of all that, but you don't have to adjust it, for odd months and leap years and things like that. So this is, one of those amazing Japanese, what I call set it and forget it watches. The idea is that, once you initially set the watch up, provided it gets some sunlight and you're outside enough and things like that, it's going to keep itself powered and keep itself on time. Makes for really a perfect travel watch. And with this generation of Seiko Astron GPS Solar, they finally made it a little bit more mainstream in design. You see this sort of 8-sided octagonal bezel, a little kind of royal oak-esque, integrated bracelet design. It tapers the bracelet. A lot more, interesting geometry on the case. It doesn't just look like a case which is trying to hide a pretty big movement. It's a lot more cohesive of a design right now. Super legible dial, incredibly easy to see hands and hour markers. a lot of depth to the dial. This is not only one of the most beautiful Seiko Astron GPS Solars to come out, but again, it's one of the ones that you can wear in a most mainstream way. It doesn't really look like a gadget watch. It is a lifestyle watch that has a very interesting and exclusive technology. Others like Citizen and Casio also have their flavors of GPS watches with solar power charging, but they're all a little bit different, and Seiko really does a nice job with this. The case, it looks big. It's actually 41.2 millimeters wide, not taking consideration the crown, 12 millimeters thick, about a 49 millimeter, I measured it as 50 millimeters lug to lug distance here, but as you can see, it does wear a little bit large, and part of that is this very large bracelet attachment here, and it's it does a good job of hiding what is a large movement. And it's very comfortable. I have to, again, remark on the comfort, especially because this is titanium and it wears, so light in terms of the watch. The sapphire crystal has a really good amount of AR coating. You can see on there, really almost no glare, just pure legibility. One of the things that would have been nice that doesn't have here is a backlight. I guess arguably it doesn't need it with the loomed hands and things like that, but I thought that would have been a nice feature to have. But otherwise, this is really an incredible movement that does a lot of great things without you noticing and just sort of features the time. This is probably the most elegant, if you want to call it that, GPS watch that Seiko has produced. This version of the Seiko Astron GPS Solar costs $2,000. I think it's a very fair price, and Seiko really has not increased that pricing for a great number of years, and so I'd say these sort of have not had any inflationary cost added to them or anything like that. So this is really a cool time to be into the GPS watches, and this generation of the Seiko Astron GPS Solar is just fantastic. You can see the full review on aBlogtoWatch. Thanks so much.